Our world continues to change and push us in ways we have not been challenged before. On this show, we talk about these challenges, how to be aware of them, face them, and overcome them in your life. This is David Waldas, creator of the Aligned Living System.
And I'm Nick Musica, Aligned Living Coach. Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast.
Welcome to the Aligned Living System podcast. This is David Waldas here with Nick Musica. We have actually been on a bit of a hiatus, so welcome back to the listeners. Took a little bit of time off this summer. Been traveling for the last 5 weeks, and it was really pretty wonderful to take a little bit of a break. And I actually took off a full week for the first time in maybe 12 years. Which is, it's kind of nice to have a job that I don't feel like I need a break from, but to intentionally take a break and go, I'm actually going to take a week off and spend it with my girlfriend in Paris, and have a wonderful time, and it was really cool to step away. And the funny part too was there's 5 different people that reached out to me and said, "Hey, everything okay?" Because my energy pulled back off the grid, right? And I just focused on me and my girlfriend and our time in Paris, and it was beautiful. But it was kind of a funny thing of what happens when we're used to showing up in that way, and all of a sudden we're not. And it was kind of nice to be missed, I guess, is another way of saying it. Of realizing that that's where I always am. And to step back and reset myself a bit was beautiful and needed, and it was kind of fun that literally 5 people messaged me like, "Hey, everything all right? I've been thinking about you. What's going on?" So welcome, Nick. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I did not go to Paris. I would like to. We need to make plans to do that.
It's funny. There's a Paris, New York, and my parents and my daughter were there, and they sent me a picture. Said we went to Paris too. And it's like a roadside.
That's fun. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Focused on some work on this side, getting some training done on this side.
Yeah, more coach training, right?
Yeah. Enjoyed a bit of the summer at the end of the summer with Julieta down in La Jolla Shores. Saw a couple of sharks. Oh, we saw this green sea turtle.
Oh, how cool.
Never saw one before.
In San Diego.
Say it again?
I don't think I've seen a sea turtle in San Diego.
This was the first time, and I've been in the water more than once, but and La Jolla more than once, La Jolla Shores. Yeah. And this was the first time we're you swim off to the cove, and then you swim back, snorkeling back, or over the reef.
You've been to the beach there. There's a certain time of year or two where there's, what kind of sharks are they?
Yeah, they're leopard sharks. It's from roughly July to the end of September, something like that.
Which are really passive and
like 4 to 6 feet at most, which sounds, oh my God, shark, 6 feet. Also, they're like a really big squirrel. They're bottom feeders, right? Like this, they're just super docile. They don't, I imagine if you grab the tail and, what was not a kind human, then they would have something to say about it. But largely they're just swimming around. No big deal.
Yeah.
And so that's why we typically go, is to go see the leopard sharks. And we saw a couple, but on the way back, we typically snorkel hand in hand, so we stay close to each other. And and Julieta pulls my hand, and I hear under the water, and I look up, and I'm like, there's this really big turtle butt, just like 2 feet away from my face. It looks like an elephant. And it's like gray and wrinkly.
That big.
And that big. Little tail. And we spent about 10 minutes with this sea turtle, green sea turtle.
Yeah, how cool.
Super cool. And it's chewing on the reef, comes up, takes a breath, goes back down, did that like 3 or 4 times. And we were just having lunch with him. Well, he was having lunch, but we're like those people who walk by the restaurant
and stare at people's plates.
Yeah. And they're hungry. They're deciding if they want to eat there. And you're like, you can come in and get a table. Right. We were those people.
Those Paris cafes. That's what we were actually laughing about that. Like our plates must look really interesting because it was like person after person staring at them.
Yeah. Yeah. The kelp looked delicious that this turtle is eating.
Yeah, well, it's good to stop and take care of ourselves, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
so,
for sure.
it's also good to be back, it's felt so good to come home and to, get back to it. I'm excited to be recording today and getting the podcast back and going.
Yeah.
And, we're recording now it's Friday, September 12th, and so, uh, pretty crazy week, right, in the States. Um, there was the Charlie Kirk shooting, obviously
Mhm.
the assassination, and then, there was a shooting at, Evergreen High School, which is
Colorado,
my
yeah.
old in Colorado where I used to live, and that was, my daughters went to the feeder school to that, and we moved before they went to that high school.
Mm.
But it was also where I had my healing center, and it was really, really close to home. Seeing, some of my actually old students' kids are there. Just a lot to process, right? And, y you know, it's unfortunate, but we're seeing more of that, and we're gonna see more of it. And I
Mhm.
wanted to talk a little bit about that, and our role as people that are conscious and people that are working on their alignment and holding themselves in a higher conscious. And we talked a bit the last podcast, maybe even the last two podcasts, right before we took a break, about the difference between being above that threshold and below the threshold, where we're in our alignment, and we talk about it as being in that place where we just feel really good, versus a place when we're just feeling a little bit heavier. But really, that threshold is a difference between the fifth dimension and we're being down in the third and fourth dimension. And the third and fourth dimension, as we talked about last time, is the rule of the law. There is duality, and so whatever exists at one level, the polarity exists as well. And one of the things that this is what my understanding, the downloads I've been getting around this, is the reason we're seeing so much of this chaos and so much of this like horrificness is that there's so many of us really raising our consciousness. And if we're doing that, but we're still in that duality consciousness, so we've raised it, but not quite enough to get over that threshold. Because of the laws of duality, the opposite exists. And
Right.
so we're seeing all of this happening, right? We're seeing all these people that are bringing way more light, which is also bringing way more darkness. They balance each other. And I think those of us that, and we talked about that before, but this part I wanted to talk about because I think it's a really important understanding because it's such a common misconception. And I had a misconception about it until I got the download about it, and the guys have continued to talk about this. But, you know, so many of us have felt like we're trying to do these things in the light, whether we're trying to create something, we're trying to, really do positive stuff in the world. And I've heard people say things like, gosh, I know I'm really onto something because there's so much darkness showing up trying to block me from it. And we talked about that a little bit last time. The idea of like, well, it's actually not it's a threshold problem, not a darkness problem. And then if we can get ourselves above that threshold, we're not creating darkness at the same time. We're not calling in that opposition. And so that piece then where we go, gosh, there's just there's so much against us. And that was the part. This is the part where that's a new download is this is what I was showing is that we think that it's blocking our light, but it's not at all. The idea of duality consciousness is actually to create a neutrality because that's where darkness has access. And if darkness didn't have duality, if it didn't have the same amount of light blocking it, it could just run rampant. And so when we look at, gosh, God, there's so much darkness blocking my light, that's actually not true. There's so much light blocking the darkness. And the more darkness there is, the more light there is. And so that it keeps it somewhat neutralized. Of course, as we're watching these horrible things play out, it's not neutralized, it's balanced, is probably another way of saying it, because we're seeing both things happen. And so when we are down below that threshold, we're part of that. We're contributing to that. And our roles now is to move ourselves into this higher state and to hold that, to embody that, so that we're not contributing to that duality anymore, but actually bring more light onto the planet without the counterpart. But I thought that part was just fascinating that, this isn't darkness against us. We should be glad that that duality is in there because it keeps darkness in check. And as darkness rises, so does light. Really, really fascinating. How's that land for you, Nick? I know we talked a little bit about this. but it's
Yeah, this is all new information. Your perspective, new information coming to me.
mhm,
So
mhm.
I'm still taking it in. Um, it is just to react to it. It is sounds obvious. Also, no shortage of challenges and things out there today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Um, and a lot of it. I mean, I'm lucky enough at this point where a lot of it does not directly personally impact me the way that it does other people.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of people that I know who their reality is just different than mine.
Mhm, mhm.
And the headline, while it reads the same, means something different to them than it
Yeah,
does me, right?
different perspective.
From a personal experience, the world perspective.
Yeah,
Um, and and we've all gone through good times, and we've all gone through challenging times.
yeah.
And so what I'm hearing from you, let me know if I get this, if I'm off base or whatever it may be, is regardless of those experiences, regardless of, and was it Viktor Frankl? Am I saying the right word, the right name?
Yeah, yeah, the guy who was, in the concentration camp.
Oh my God. Yeah. I haven't read his book yet, but
The
I
Meaning
mean,
of Life. Yeah.
what a horrendous situation he was in.
Mhm,
Um, and I could be not completely telling the truth because I haven't read the book, and my memory could be a little faulty on the sound bites I have heard. But he lost his wife in the concentration camps,
mhm. Yeah,
and he's spending his time um, focused on one of the beautiful things that he can in this oppressive environment, which is the tree outside. Is that right? Is
mhm.
that right? You know the story better than I do, it
I
sounds like.
try to remember the details.
Yeah, I think that's it. And if it's not, then please listen to the book, read the book. Um, but the idea of there's always something that we can focus on to keep us productive, to keep us
Sense of control.
purposeful,
Yeah.
to keep us centered, whatever the words are that you use, to keep
Mhm.
you in a higher state as the world may be falling apart around you.
Mhm,
Um, seems extremely important. Um, and I remember we shared the experience of the Bo Eason training.
mhm.
And I'm gonna probably not paraphrase correctly. I remember Bo talking about, you just don't get to be great all by yourself. It just doesn't happen. Just magically, poof, now you're great. It's the situations you put yourself in, or you find yourself in, and then your actions within those situations that result in this new character that
Yeah, you
press
need the
on the,
demand. Yeah.
the demanding situations.
Mhm.
Um, it's the carbon under pressure scenario essentially,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if you do that, you can come out smelling like a diamond in some
Mhm,
cases.
mhm. One of my favorite smells.
I love the smell of a diamond. Um, smells like carbon. Uh, so that's what I'm hearing. That's how I'm internalizing, at least for now.
Right, right, right. Y and that's I mean, I think it really is that simple that we need to hold ourselves in a higher place. And it's interesting with all this going on, you know, social media was just blowing up with negativity and,
Mm,
it's weird, like, people I know from, like, spiritual circles were even putting really just kinda hateful posts out about the assassination, and it was really bizarre, even name calling, like, just, you know, I get the upsetness, and I get how we can really be offended by people's ideas and how they show up, but the idea of recognizing what we're doing when we're contributing below the threshold. Like, what is and even more importantly, what is it we're not doing when we're doing that? And, speaking of horrific things, it's, when I flew in to LA on speaking of horrific things, I flew in on Monday, back from Paris, and was taking the Uber back up Thousand Oaks where I live, and on the 405 there was an accident, and it was fatality, and there was going by and seeing that yellow tarp that we hate to see uh covering the body, and my Uber driver was like, oh gosh, like I could feel him just go into this like anxious, like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And I basically, yeah, gosh, we've seen that way too many times. And looking at that and knowing intellectually, like, oh, this is a horrific situation, right?
Hmm.
Here's somebody that was alive a minute ago, that they're dead now. They're right
Hmm.
there. And I'm sure they have a family. I'm sure they have, whatever, all these different things going on, and loved ones. And what is my contribution to this? What is it that I'm bringing? And I really felt this sense of like I could go into the emotion of it, or I could hold my alignment and bring this light into the car. Here's my driver having a really tough time, and even if he wasn't, there's always hundreds of thousands of people, like, we're not hundreds, thousands of people driving by on the 405, and realizing like my job here is to just bring light to this, to hold stability, to not go into this, to not drop below the threshold. And people may say something like, "Gosh, that's spiritual bypassing. You're not feeling what you're experiencing." And I would say that, um, you know, absolutely. Sometimes people do spiritual bypass. They do things that they to not have to deal with what's going on, to not have to deal with what's going on in their life. But more often now, I think, is people are bypassing spirit, and it's not a spiritual bypassing problem, but a bypassing spirit problem. And when you look at the social media posts, what are these spiritual people that are saying mean things about somebody that just got assassinated, or going into these different stories or whatever? It's really, I think that piece of, if we're worried about spiritual bypassing, we need to be a lot more focused on not bypassing spirit. And it's funny that channeled in a session the other day is like, don't worry about spiritual bypassing, worry about bypassing spirit. And I think that's a bigger challenge for us. And if we're going to err on one side, let's err on that side.
Um, I think it was before we got on the line. I was referencing Edgar Casey as something that showed up recently, and you just triggered another one, which was it was a it was about talking about diet in one of his books. When people take his readings and they then create themes around them, they publish a bunch of books, and there was something about diet and what you put in your mouth, and someone was very concerned about this, and his response was, "I'd be more worried about what comes out of my mouth," which sounds a little bit like what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. And we can focus on both, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's not.
and that
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
piece of like,
Yeah.
what does and so absolutely. And so we do have a responsibility to process our stuff and to clear ourselves out, and to let stuff come up as it needs to. And sometimes we need to feel it. And the Aligned Living System is all about clearing out what's not us anymore. Right. And traumas are
Hmm.
not us. You know, Witnessing a horrific accident is not us. The mark that can leave on our psyche is not us, and in our body is not us. And so, like going back to it was really interesting as I saw the accident. The last time I saw a tarp like that, I had personally witnessed a suicide
Mm.
right in front of me, and I made myself stay in it because I realized like this is what creates trauma. This is what creates these things that stick with us. And so I was in a situation where I could just stay present with the experience, and it was hard to stay present with it. It was gruesome, and I did in order to let it process through, and then I continued to keep it open for the next bit so that it wouldn't stick. And it was really interesting seeing the tarp, the yellow tarp that we don't like to see. Um, it brought me back to that, and I was like, wow, okay, I can actually be okay in this situation. I can still bring light to this, which is obviously very needed in this situation when all these people are experiencing and witnessing something horrific. If we have the ability to bring light into that, that's fantastic, and that is our role. But we also had I like when I witnessed that suicide, I had some really hard work to do and immediate work to do. And it was challenging. And it took me about 3 days of just keeping myself a little dizzy, keeping myself in it, not letting it bury in me. And I felt it really pay off, when we were passing that other accident. Well, you can call this one an accident, the other one not so much. But that I was able to hold a space and feel a responsibility to bring light into a situation,
Mhm.
because I'd already done the work beforehand. Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah.
And so we have to work through what's happening on this planet because it's going to keep happening, and we're going to see it in very different ways. And as all these people that are turning on and lighting up, like, it's bringing a whole bunch of darkness too, because they're learning how to get above the threshold. They're learning how to stabilize above the threshold. And that's what this process looks like. We've been talking about it for a very long time, that there's going to be a huge period of disruption. And this is what we're witnessing.
Mhm.
And knowing that those of us that have the ability to keep ourselves above the threshold during this, like, we can make this a much shorter window. We can expedite what's actually happening, and we can minimize what's happening. We can play a really powerful role in it. And to me, that's everything that Aligned Living's about. That's why the download came to me, in 2016. It was really preparation for this time. And I talked about it for years, and it wasn't very interesting to people until now. And now all of a sudden it's super interesting, because now is when we really need it, at such, powerful ways. Yeah, really, really interesting.
Yeah, the soundbite of, what'd you just say? Was it disruptive times? Was
I'm
that the
sorry, I
phrase you
wasn't
used?
listening.
I was listening to myself. I think you used the phrase
That's something about
disruptive
channeling. I don't know
times.
what I just said.
Um, uh,
Something
uh,
about,
it
something about our
sounded like
roles on the planet, and that we need
Jesus.
to, focus on not bypassing spirits a little more important than
we,
worrying
we
about
need a we need a
wearing
teleprompter
ourselves
that
out.
we
Anything
need a
else?
transcript in real time. I think the phrase was disruptive times. Um,
Yeah,
and just to remind myself that that was the deal. That was the deal that was struck. Like, is now a good time? It's going to be a little nutty. Okay, let's go.
yeah. It's our contracts. Why we're here. If we think we're here to suffer and get stuck in it and get freaked out and get
Yeah.
overwhelmed, we gotta resort that and do our nervous system work and do our alignment work, because we have substantial and massively important roles to play right now.
There's shit to do.
Shit
Uh-huh.
to do, And those of us that have been here on this kind of light worker journey, or however you want to look at it, that have felt like, oh, we're here to bring this light, like, that was all practice. It was all practice for now. And now that we actually have the ability to stabilize above that threshold, to stabilize in a place where we're not contributing to what's happening, but bring light in and disrupting what's happening, and facilitating an expedited version of this, and how it actually is dynamic and we can change it. This is why we're here, and this is what we've been practicing for. All that other stuff leading up to this, it was practice. It was
This is the
preparation.
game. We're in the game now.
Yeah, yeah, which is super exciting, and to know that, you know, this has been coming up. It's funny. This actually just came up in one of my mastermind groups. Today we were talking about it. Is, there's a difference between, when we get upset about something, um, we often end up in some form of victimhood, and that victimhood is below the threshold, right? And what is victimhood? Victimhood is, there's a situation going on that I don't feel agency, or I'm not taking agency in. If I'm going to take agency in it, I can recognize that I'm actually not going to maintain the role of victim. And maybe there's something coming up that says, well, absolutely, by traditional terms, I'm a victim right here. And do I need to hold that energy? Do I need to stay stuck in it? Or can I take agency and move myself back above the threshold? And victimhood is basically saying, I can't take agency, or I'm not willing to, or I'm not choosing to. And, that's what all the tools that we teach are about, is how to move above the threshold and take agency. And so if you're
Yep.
feeling a victim to any of this, which it sure would make sense that we are, because there's some horrific stuff happening. Uh, I just want to share this perspective. That's why we're doing the work with Aligned Living, to offer these tools.
Yeah. So can we, I don't think we've talked about it in a while. What's a place to go get some of these tools?
Yeah, I mean, just going to my website at davidwaldas.com.
Great.
And, there's a free video course on there too. There's lots of programs. In fact, we're getting ready to launch the next month or so, the Aligned Living Coaching Academy too, where we'll be training coaches to do this. And I think I've trained 16 in the past, but we're actually, systemized it and organized it. Now it's a whole different program than it was before, with these new tools that are all about how to clear out what we've already experienced, how to call back the parts of us we let go of that aren't serving, and how to stay above the threshold and to
Yeah.
offer that back to humanity and to ourselves and to everybody around us.
Yeah. Super
And
cool. Very effective.
yeah, and now's the time. Now's
Yeah.
the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so good to be back.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You're laughing because of all the challenging stuff going on at the same time as the positive.
I don't know. It's just funny to me. It's just, I don't know why. I find things funny for some reason.
Well, it goes right to that saying that we say all the time. Nick and I were talking about this earlier. We're like clearing stuff out and puking or whatever. And be like, oh, this is so fun. This is so good. I finally got a hold of that one thing that was dragging me below the threshold, dragging me into my shit. And I found it and I puked it out. Like, this is fantastic.
Look at that splinter. So fun.
Freedom. And that,
That's true.
it's gonna just keep coming at us. So we have to find a way to be resilient and a way to recognize that what we're doing is actually fantastic. And when it's hard, there's something really good coming out of it.
Yeah. I think that's the most important part. It will continue.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so
we have a place in it. We got to choose our position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that how long the world is experiencing things the way they are, and how deep it goes and how horrific it gets, is up to us and our consciousness and our ability to bring light without bringing the darkness, with staying out of duality.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for listening and to our upbeat. It's funny. I'm like, is this upbeat? It feels upbeat to me, but I know we're talking about horrific things. But thanks so much for listening.
There's hope in there. There's hope.
Yeah, hope and agency.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for listening, and we'd love to hear from you. And go check out the website, get the tools. Love to be of support. See y'all next week. We hope you enjoyed listening to today's podcast. And if you did, please subscribe so you can catch the next episode. If you want to learn more about the Aligned Living System and how it could support you in your life, check out davidwaldas.com.